According to a royal insider, something rather uncomfortable is happening inside the royal family right now. King Charles has reportedly started keeping Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie at arm's length. And the situation has become so emotional that one source claims Princess Beatrice has been bursting into tears behind the scenes, while Princess Eugenie is said to be refusing to accept what is happening at all. Now, what makes this surprising is that the king has always been extremely fond of his nieces. For years, he reportedly tried to shield them from the scandals surrounding their parents. So the obvious question is, what changed? Because the reports coming out of London suggest the pressure surrounding the York family has reached a point where Charles believes he has no choice but to step in. And once you start looking at the details, the situation appears far more complicated than many people realised. To understand how things reached this point, we need to step back for a moment and look at the unusual position Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have always held within the royal family. The sisters have long occupied a rather complicated space within the monarchy. They were never quite in the same category as Prince William or Prince Harry, who grew up knowing they would eventually play central roles in the institution. But they were also never completely outside the royal world either. As the daughters of the former Duke and Duchess of York, both Beatrice and Eugenie grew up very much in the public eye. They appeared on the Buckingham Palace balcony during major royal celebrations, attended family events, and were regularly photographed alongside their cousins. Yet at the same time, they were not working royals in the same sense as the senior members of the family. Instead, both women built lives and careers outside the palace. Princess Beatrice pursued work in the business world and later married Edoardo Mapelli Mozzi in 2020. Princess Eugenie built a career in the art world and married Jack Brooksbank in 2018. Both sisters now have young families of their own and appeared for a time to have found a comfortable balance between private life and royal connection. But the one factor that always made their position fragile was their father. The reputation of the former Duke of York had been under scrutiny for years, long before the situation escalated into the global scandal that eventually forced him to step away from royal duties. And although Beatrice and Eugenie worked hard to build identities separate from their father's controversies, the reality is that the York name has always remained tied to that story. For a while, it looked like the royal family had managed to move past the worst of the situation. The former Duke of York stepped back from royal life, lost his military titles and patronages, and largely disappeared from public duties. At the time, many royal commentators said King Charles believed the daughters should not suffer for the actions of their father. Several observers suggested Charles felt genuine sympathy for his nieces and wanted them to be able to continue their lives without being pulled further into the controversy. But over the past year, the Epstein story has resurfaced again in public discussion. Additional documents connected to the case began circulating widely in the media. As journalists and commentators combed through the material, the names of numerous individuals connected to Epstein appeared in various records. Now, of course, being mentioned in those documents does not automatically confirm any wrongdoing. Many people appeared simply because their names showed up in contact books, travel records, or social circles connected to Epstein. However, when the names of Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie appeared in headlines again, even without accusations attached, it immediately brought the York family back into a story the palace had spent years trying to move past. And this is where the pressure reportedly began to build once again. Royal commentators and members of the public started asking whether the princesses should speak openly about what they knew regarding their parents' association with Epstein. Up until now, both sisters have largely remained silent on the subject. They have continued with their professional lives and family commitments without addressing the issue directly. But, according to reports published in the British press, King Charles attempted to offer them assistance behind the scenes. One report suggested the king offered access to one of his senior advisors. The idea was to help the sisters navigate the growing scrutiny and protect their reputations as the story resurfaced. But according to that same report, the princesses declined the offer. And this is where the story takes a turn that reportedly frustrated the king more than many people realised. From Charles's perspective, having experienced advisors guiding the situation could have reduced the risk of further reputational damage. Instead, the sisters apparently chose to handle the situation in their own way. As the conversation around Epstein resurfaced again in the media, the presence of the York family within that story continued to attract attention. According to a royal insider quoted in the press, the king has now reached a point where he feels he must protect the monarchy first. The source explained that, although the princesses are not accused of wrongdoing, their association with individuals connected to Epstein still brings unwanted attention. Because of that, the insider claimed Charles has begun quietly adjusting his stance toward the sisters. The source said Beatrice and Eugenie are particularly vulnerable at the moment, and that the king is shifting how closely the monarchy appears to be supporting them publicly. And, according to the same insider, the emotional impact on the sisters has been significant. Princess Beatrice, the source claimed, has been trying to approach the situation in a practical way. But, at the same time, they say she has been bursting into tears regularly. And according to the insider, the reason is not necessarily her father. Instead, it is the feeling that her own world has suddenly been shaken. The source suggested Beatrice has always cared deeply about her place within the royal family and the stability of that connection. So the idea that the palace may now be creating distance has reportedly been extremely difficult for her. Meanwhile, the picture painted of Princess Eugenie is quite different. According to the same source, Eugenie appears to be coping in another way entirely. Rather than confronting the situation directly, the insider suggested she has chosen to ignore the growing criticism. The source described her response bluntly, saying she has gone into denial and is hoping the controversy will eventually disappear. Whether that description is entirely fair is difficult to say, but it does highlight how differently the two sisters may be experiencing the pressure surrounding their family. Here is another part of the story that has added to the scrutiny. Questions have recently surfaced surrounding the sisters' finances. Royal author Andrew Lowney, who spent years researching the York family for his biography entitled, has raised concerns about alleged financial connections involving the princesses. Reports have suggested that both Beatrice and Eugenie may have received payments from David Rowland, a billionaire businessman who has long been associated with their father. Rowland has been considered a controversial figure in some financial and political circles. According to reports, the alleged payments raised questions among some royal commentators about whether the sisters should provide more clarity regarding their financial arrangements. Sources close to the princesses reportedly responded by saying the sisters had no recollection of receiving those payments. Andrew Lowney, however, suggested the situation deserved a clearer explanation. He said it was time for the princesses and their father to come clean. But not everyone in royal circles agrees with that approach. Royal biographer Ingrid Seward has taken a very different view. She told reporters that speaking publicly could actually make matters worse for the sisters. In her opinion, the most sensible strategy may simply be to stay quiet and allow the controversy to fade over time. Seward also added something that many royal watchers have found particularly telling. According to her, the king may still feel genuine affection for his nieces, but at the moment, publicly supporting them would not look good for the monarchy. And that brings us back to the central question surrounding this story. If these reports are accurate, Beatrice and Eugenie are now navigating one of the most delicate moments of their lives within the royal family. They are trying to maintain their careers, protect their families, and manage public scrutiny, all while the continuing fallout surrounding their parents continues to dominate headlines. And if the palace really has begun keeping its distance, that could signal a significant shift in how the monarchy handles the York family moving forward. What remains unclear is how the sisters will respond. Will they eventually speak publicly about the questions surrounding their family? Or will they continue to remain silent and hope the attention fades? And perhaps the biggest question of all, will the distance between the king and his nieces prove temporary? Or could it quietly become something more permanent? For now, the exact answer is uncertain. But one thing does seem clear. The story surrounding the York family is far from over. Before we finish, I would love to hear what you think. Do you believe King Charles is right to keep some distance from the princesses right now, given the pressure surrounding the York family? Or do you think Beatrice and Eugenie are being unfairly drawn into controversies that were never truly their own? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy these conversations, don't forget to subscribe.